We took DNA tests at a family reunion, just for fun. That's what everyone thought. A simple activity, something to laugh about, a way to discover distant relatives, maybe learn a little about where we came from. No one expected it to change our lives, and definitely no one expected a stranger to call my father Dad. But 3 weeks later, that's exactly what happened. My name is Ethan Miller. I'm 61 years old. And the story I'm about to tell you started on a warm summer afternoon, surrounded by family, laughter, and a truth none of us were ready for. Our family reunion was something we hadn't done in years. People traveled from different states. Cousins I hadn't seen in decades showed up. Old stories were told. Memories were relived. It felt complete. My father, Robert Miller, was the center of it all. He always was. A respected man, calm, steady, the kind of person everyone trusted. To us, he was simple, predictable, a man with no secrets. At least, that's what we believed. It was my niece who suggested the DNA tests. They're popular now, she said. We can all try it and compare results. It'll be fun. Most of us laughed. Some were curious. And eventually, almost everyone agreed, including my father. That part mattered. Because if he had refused, maybe things would have gone differently. The kits arrived a few days later. Small boxes. Simple instructions. Swab your cheek. Seal the sample. Send it back. We did it together. Joking. Teasing each other. Guessing what the results might say. Some thought they might have distant European roots. Others joked about discovering royal bloodlines. It was light, harmless. At least, it felt that way. I remember looking at my father while he sealed his sample. He didn't look nervous, didn't hesitate. He just followed the instructions like everyone else. Calm, unbothered. If he was hiding something, he didn't show it. After the reunion ended, life went back to normal. Everyone returned to their routines. Work. Family, daily responsibilities. The DNA test became just another thing we were waiting on. Something we would check eventually, but not urgently. Weeks passed. Then one evening, I received a notification. My results were ready. I opened the app out of curiosity. It showed the usual information. Ethnicity breakdown, genetic matches. Nothing surprising at first, until I saw something that didn't make sense. A close match. Very close. Closer than a cousin. Closer than anything that should have been there. The name attached to it meant nothing to me. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then my phone rang. It was my sister. "Ethan," she said immediately. Her voice was tense. "Did you check your DNA results?" "I just did," I replied. "Do you see it?" she asked. "Yes." There was a pause. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "Neither do I." We talked for a few minutes, going over possibilities. Mistake. Error. Wrong data. But none of it made sense. DNA doesn't just create close matches by accident. Then she said something that made everything feel different. "I got a message," she said. My grip tightened slightly on the phone. "A message?" I repeated. "From that person," she said. The same name I had seen on my screen. "What did it say?" I asked. There was a short silence. Then she answered. "He said he's been looking for his father." My heart skipped. "And he thinks it's ours." The room felt suddenly quiet. Too quiet. "That's not possible," I said automatically. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. "Ethan," she said slowly. "He knows Dad's name." That changed everything. Because this wasn't random anymore. This wasn't just data. This was intentional. "Did you tell Dad?" I asked. "No," she replied quickly. "I didn't know what to say." Neither did I. Because how do you ask a man you've known your entire life if he has a child no one knows about? That night, I didn't sleep much. My mind kept going over every possibility. Every explanation, every memory of my father. trying to find something that didn't fit, but nothing stood out. He had always been there, always consistent, always the same, until the next day. That's when everything changed. Because that stranger didn't just send messages anymore. He showed up, and when he stood in front of our house and looked directly at my father, he said one word, "Dad." And in that moment, I realized something we never expected. Our family story was missing a chapter. The moment he said it, "Dad," everything stopped. No one moved. No one spoke. It was like time itself hesitated, waiting to see what would happen next. I was standing just a few steps behind my father when the man appeared at the front gate. Mid-30s, maybe. Worn jeans, simple shirt, not threatening, not aggressive, but there was something in his eyes, something steady, certain, like he wasn't guessing, like he knew. My father didn't respond immediately. He just stared at him, and in that silence, I saw something I had never seen before. Uncertainty, not confusion, not anger. Something deeper, something hidden. "Sir," my father finally said, his voice calm but cautious, "I think you have the wrong person." The man shook his head slowly. "No," he replied. "I don't." His voice was firm, controlled, not emotional, but not cold either. "I've spent years looking for you," he continued, "and now I'm here." My sister stepped closer to me, her hand tightening slightly around my arm. "Ethan," she whispered. I didn't respond, because I couldn't. I was too focused on my father, watching him, trying to read him, trying to understand what this moment meant. "Who are you?" my father asked. The question sounded simple, but it carried weight. The man took a step forward. "My name is Daniel Carter," he said. The name meant nothing to me, nothing to my sister. But something about the way he said it made it feel important. "And I believe you're my father." The words hit harder this time, because now there was no confusion, no misunderstanding, just a direct claim. My father exhaled slowly. He looked at me for a brief moment, then back at the man. "I don't know you," he said. And for a second, I almost believed him. But then Daniel reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were papers, printed documents. He held them out. "DNA results," he said. "My father didn't take them. Not right away. I took the test 3 weeks ago," Daniel continued. "Same company, same system." He paused, and it matched. The word echoed in my head. Matched. Because we had taken those tests too. At the reunion. At the same time. My sister stepped forward now. "We saw it," she said quietly. Daniel looked at her, then back at my father. "I wasn't planning to come like this," he said, "but when I saw the match and your name..." He stopped, took a breath. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Silence again. But this time, it felt heavier. Because now, there was evidence. Not just a claim. Not just a stranger at the door. Something real. My father finally reached out and took the folder. Slowly, carefully. He opened it and looked at the papers inside. His face didn't change much, but I noticed something small. His hand, it wasn't steady anymore, just slightly, but enough for me to see it. "How did you find us?" I asked. Daniel looked at me. "The DNA database gave me a name," he said. "From there, it wasn't hard." He hesitated. "I've been trying to contact you," he added. "I sent messages." My sister nodded. "I saw them." "Why now?" I asked. "Because I needed to know the truth," he replied. That answer, it felt honest. Not aggressive, not demanding, just honest. My father closed the folder slowly. Then he looked at Daniel again. This time, differently. Not like a stranger. Not completely, but not like family either. Something in between. "I think you should leave," he said quietly. The words were calm, but firm. Daniel didn't move. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. "I just want answers." "You're not going to get them here," my father replied. That was the first time I felt something shift. Because that wasn't a denial. Not really. It was avoidance. And I wasn't the only one who noticed. "Dad," I said carefully. He didn't look at me. "Ethan, not now." That answer told me everything. Because my father had never shut down a conversation like that before. Not with me. Not ever. Daniel looked between us, then back at my father. "I'm not leaving," he said quietly. "I've waited too long for this." The tension in the air tightened instantly. My father's jaw clenched slightly, and for the first time, I saw something else. Not uncertainty, not confusion, but something closer to fear. "What do you want?" my father asked. Daniel didn't hesitate. The truth. 3 simple words, but they carried more weight than anything else said that day. Because the truth was something none of us were prepared for. And deep down, I think my father knew that. Because instead of answering, he turned around and walked back toward the house, without saying another word, leaving all of us standing there, with questions that were only getting bigger. My father didn't come out of his room for hours. After he walked back into the house that day, everything changed. The air felt different, heavier, unsettled, like something had been exposed, but not explained. Daniel didn't leave immediately. He stayed outside for a while, sitting quietly near the front gate, like he wasn't ready to walk away just yet. I stepped out to speak with him, not because I had answers, but because I needed to understand who he was. "Why now?" I asked again, standing a few feet away from him. He looked up at me, calm but tired. "I told you," he said. "I found the DNA match." "That's not what I mean," I replied. "You said you've been looking for him for years. Why keep searching?" He hesitated. Then he said something that made everything feel more real. "Because my mother never told me who he was." That caught my attention. "She didn't know?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, she knew," he said. "She just didn't want to tell me." "Why?" His eyes shifted for a moment, like he was replaying something painful. "Because he left." The word hung there, heavy, uncomfortable. "Left?" I repeated. He nodded slowly. "She told me they had something, a long time ago," he said. "But when she found out she was pregnant," he stopped, took a breath. He disappeared. I didn't say anything right away, because I didn't know what to say. That version of my father, it didn't match the man I had known my entire life. "Do you believe her?" I asked. Daniel looked at me directly. "I've spent my whole life trying to figure out what to believe," he said. That answer felt honest, not defensive, not emotional, just real. "What about your mother now?" I asked. He looked down briefly. "She passed away 2 years ago." I nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." He gave a small, quiet nod. "She never told me his name," he continued. "Just a few details, enough to keep me searching. And now you think you found him." "I don't think," he said. He looked back at me. "I know. That confidence, it came from somewhere deeper than just hope. And now, with the DNA results, it was hard to deny." Behind me, I heard the front door open. I turned. My father stepped outside, slowly, not rushed, not panicked, but different. He looked older somehow, not physically, but emotionally, like the weight of something long hidden had finally caught up to him. Daniel stood up immediately. The two of them faced each other again, but this time, it wasn't as tense. It was quieter, more serious. "I think we should talk," my father said. Daniel nodded. "I've been waiting for that." My father looked at me and my sister. "Inside," he said. We all followed him into the living room. No one sat down at first. It felt too important, too heavy. Finally, my father took a seat. We followed. Daniel sat across from him. There was a long silence, the kind that builds before something difficult is about to be said. Then my father spoke. "Your mother's name was Lisa Carter." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes." My father closed his eyes for a brief moment. as if confirming something in his own mind. Then he opened them again. I knew her. Those 3 words, they changed everything. Because now, this wasn't just a possibility anymore. This was real. My sister inhaled sharply beside me. I stayed still, listening, trying to process every word. It was a long time ago, my father continued. Before I met your mother, before any of this. He gestured slightly around the room. Our relationship wasn't serious, he said. At least not to me. Daniel didn't react. He just listened, focused, calm. She never told me she was pregnant, my father added. That statement hung in the air, heavy, because it directly conflicted with what Daniel had been told. Daniel leaned forward slightly. She said you left, he said. My father shook his head slowly. No, he replied. I moved away for work. I didn't even know. The room fell silent again. 2 different stories. 2 different versions of the same past. And somewhere between them, the truth. I would have stayed, my father said quietly. That was the first time his voice changed. Not defensive, not controlled, just human. I would have taken responsibility. Daniel's expression shifted slightly. Not fully convinced, but not rejecting it either. Then why didn't you try to find her? He asked. My father hesitated, then answered honestly. Because I didn't know there was anything to find. That answer, it didn't solve everything, but it changed the direction of the conversation. Because now this wasn't about blame. It was about something else. Timing, missed chances, a life that could have been, but wasn't. I grew up without a father, Daniel said quietly. My father looked at him, and for the first time, there was something in his eyes I had never seen before. Regret. Real regret. I'm sorry, he said. Simple words, but they carried decades of weight. Daniel didn't respond immediately, because some apologies take time to process. I didn't come here for that, he said finally. I know, my father replied. I came here for the truth. My father nodded. And now you have it. But deep down, we all knew something. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Because finding the truth doesn't fix the past. It just opens the door to everything that comes after. No one moved after my father said, and now you have it. Because the truth didn't feel complete. It felt like a door had been opened, but we were all still standing at the entrance, unsure whether to walk through it. Daniel leaned back slightly, his eyes still fixed on my father. That's it? He asked quietly. The question wasn't aggressive, but it carried something deeper. Years of questions, years of waiting, years of growing up without answers. My father didn't respond immediately. He looked down at his hands, then slowly back up. What else do you want to know? He asked. Daniel let out a small breath. I don't even know where to start, he admitted. That honesty changed the tone of the room, because now, this wasn't confrontation anymore. It was confusion. 2 lives, suddenly connected, trying to figure out what that connection meant. I grew up thinking my father didn't want me, Daniel said. His voice was steady, but there was something underneath it, something unresolved. And now you're telling me you didn't even know I existed? My father nodded slowly. That's the truth. Daniel shook his head slightly. It's hard to accept that. I understand, my father replied. And for the first time, it sounded like he really did. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was reflective, like everyone was trying to adjust to a new reality. My sister finally spoke. What happens now? She asked. That question, it felt familiar. Because in moments like this, there's no clear path forward. Just choices and consequences. My father looked at Daniel. That depends on what you want, he said. Daniel frowned slightly. What I want? Yes, my father replied. You came here for answers. You have them. He paused. But if you're asking about something more, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. We all understood. Daniel looked down for a moment, then back up. I don't know what I want, he admitted. That was probably the most honest answer he could give. Because how do you decide something like this in a single day? I've spent my whole life not having a father, he continued. So I don't even know what it means to suddenly have one. My father listened carefully. No interruptions. No excuses. Just listening. I'm not here to take anything from you, Daniel added, glancing briefly at me and my sister. I'm not here to replace anyone. I nodded slightly. I don't think anyone sees it that way, I said. He looked at me. I hope not. There was a moment of understanding there. Unspoken, but real. Because this situation wasn't just about him and my father. It affected all of us. Our family. Our history. Everything we thought we knew. I'm not expecting anything, Daniel said. But I don't want to walk away like this either. That sentence, it mattered. Because it meant he wasn't here just for closure. He was here for possibility. My father took a deep breath. I don't know how to fix the past, he said. No one can, Daniel replied. But I don't want to ignore the present. That was the turning point. Not dramatic, not loud, but important. Because for the first time, they weren't talking about what happened years ago. They were talking about now, about what comes next. I'm willing to try, my father said. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Because my father wasn't someone who spoke lightly. If he said something, he meant it. Daniel studied him for a moment, as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Then he nodded slowly. I think I am too. And just like that, something shifted. Not everything, not completely, but enough. Enough to move forward. The conversation didn't suddenly become easy. There were still questions, still uncertainty, still moments of silence. But the tension, it wasn't the same anymore. It wasn't about confrontation. It was about understanding. Hours passed. Stories were shared.